Wow, okay, I would never have spotted this if it wasn't for the eval bar. It's a mystery, Hannah.
Yeah, it cannot be. This has to be officially the longest a player has ever spent on a move in Norway chess.
Round 9 of Norway chess. Alireza starts with e4, Magnus responds with e5, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop c4, the Italian opening. And here Magnus doesn't play knight f6, he doesn't allow the fried liver, bishop c5, d3, and knight f6. And here Alireza decides to play a move that usually brings fireworks. Looking at the match, it was clear that Alireza with the white pieces wanted to play for the win. He wanted to crush Magnus because Alireza never won a classical game against Magnus. Actually, Alireza didn't win a game against Magnus and Hikaru in classical. So, is it gonna happen here? Magnus goes for h6, he retreats the bishop, and now there is variations where you can go with g5, and it's super complex, full of tactics. But Magnus decided, I think his strategy in this game was to play solid chess against Alireza, because he knows maybe that Alireza can, you know, he knew that Alireza wanted to play for the win. They go for castle. Now he brings the queen to e7. The idea of this is to actually, sorry for the arrow, is to actually bring the bishop to e6, which is the most solid way to play against these variations. So Magnus is saying, I'm not going to play for g5 here and give you all these tactical possibilities that we know Alireza plays a lot online. He loves like bullet chess, blitz, he's super good. And yeah, Magnus didn't want to enter in this kind of complications against him. And I think that's a great choice. He goes for the solid bishop e6, and he's saying, we're going to exchange pieces. Here, white, Alireza, will play on the queen side with his pawns, and Magnus is supposed to play on the king side. Magnus castles. Now Alireza brings his rook to be able to push the pawn on the next move and create some tensions there. Now Magnus says, okay, it's time to exchange pieces. They exchange on c4. And now he goes queen e6. That is a very interesting move, actually. He doesn't let Alireza push on d4 because the knight would be en prise, for instance. Right? And you will see, and also what he's doing by playing this queen e6 is that now he's not pinned with this knight anymore, which means on the next move he could play a move like knight d7 and prepare a push like f5 and counter actually on the king side. So that's why Alireza takes, because, you know, compared to this knight, this bishop is pretty bad, right? I mean, where are you going to put him? Here, but he doesn't have a life. So he exchanges saying, your knight is better than my bishop. The position until now is quite well known. Usually what happens is black takes and white takes back with the pawn. And they play with this kind of push. They want to go to b6, play on the queen side. But here, Alireza, after Magnus took, let me put back the position, Alireza decided to take with the rook. And he's saying, I'm going to put pressure on b7. Magnus defends the pawn, and now he goes with d4. And now he gets super surprised because Alireza, I think what he prepared here, he thought, okay, Magnus has a problem with this pawn. I'm attacking this pawn so many times. How do you defend it? You can't. Okay, so he's going to take on d4 and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to take back and I'm going to have an amazing center. But here Magnus came up with this move. And you're thinking at first, but what is this? I can just take the pawn on e5. But if you take, you lose the game. Because queen e6, both pieces, he's not taking back actually on e5 at all. He's saying, I'm sliding the queen, and now you have two pieces attacked, and you cannot defend the knight this way, because after this move, you lose a piece. This is what I think Alireza missed in the game when he played this. When Magnus played c6, attacking the rook, and look at the time. Look at the time now. Alireza has 1 hour, 23 minutes, and after this move, he has 24 minutes. He spent 52 minutes on this move, which is a record in the Norway chess. We never had anyone spend 52 minutes on a single move. And by the way, 2 rounds before, he spent 45 minutes on a move. So it looks like Alireza could have some, you know, maybe nerves problems or time management problems because of stress when he's playing against top number one, top number two. That's the reason maybe why he doesn't win against Hikaru or Magnus. Now they exchange pieces, he defends the pawn, they push in the center, and they go for this kind of endgame. Where it's possible that Alireza spent 52 minutes because he thought, okay, now I'm in heavy pieces endgame, this is fine, I'm gonna be able to defend it, 4 pawns against 4 pawns, and it's gonna be fine. They go like this, Alireza pushes the pawn, now he pushes this one, creating a window for his king. He goes like this, attacking d5. He doesn't defend his pawn on d5. Alireza, he attacks the other pawn, the pawn on e5. And here, they agreed on a draw, because it's true that this position is very, very... Yeah, it's just a draw. And by the way, in this game, you know what it means, by the way, if it's a draw. In Norway chess, you can't just draw in classical and the game and the match is over. You go to Armageddon, which means one player with black has 7 minutes. If he draws, it's enough for him to draw to get 1.5 points and actually win the match, okay? So this is what's gonna happen, and by the way, that game, the next one that I'm gonna show you that they played is insane. Here, by the way, they played 98.7 accuracy, both of them for the whole game. That's literally exactly how Stockfish plays, almost. They repeat the opening, exactly the Italian. Bishop g5, h6, he retreats, d6. That's for now exactly the same moves that they played in the classical. But Alireza will deviate because after Magnus castles, he doesn't play this move, rook b1, he decides to go with bishop d5. And no, you cannot take this one and win this pawn because there is a pin, right? This knight is pinned, so you cannot move it. So Magnus goes g5, so he gets rid of this pin, right? So if you just move the bishop, now he's gonna take twice here and you lose the game because you're a pawn down. But Alireza goes with this knight sacrifice. By the way, you saw the time he spent for this move? 9:28, 9:25, 3 seconds. Looks like a prep. I don't know why he didn't play this in classical, by the way. Because he was better here. Or maybe they just studied this in between both games. It's possible. They cooked this in the kitchen. Highly possible. And here Magnus, it gets super complex. Magnus takes a piece in the center. He takes another piece. He takes the bishop instead of taking the knight. I mean, not instead, but you see what I mean. Now, he goes like this, he attacks the queen, and then takes back the piece he was down. And they get this kind of situation where, honestly, Magnus has 62 million weaknesses here. Look at this. Isolated pawn, right? Doubled pawns, isolated pawn. The king is open, everything. But he has a monster bishop, that's true. But also this knight has amazing squares. But he has the f-file, is true as well. But okay, he goes queen e2, which was a great move. Now Magnus is gonna bring the heavy pieces, f3, rook g5, and here Alireza decided to play for a queen exchange. Instead, he should have played this move. He should have played knight c4 in this situation. And on rook h5, you go g4. The reason why you play like this is after rook h4, which is the only move, you go queen g2. And now black is forced to exchange queens. That's the difference compared to what happened in the game. In the game, he didn't play this. He went queen g2, but now the queen can retreat. And Magnus can keep actually his advantage of having these files open on the king side and keeping the heavy pieces. And by the way, there is another problem now. Is this pawn. This pawn could be a monster. It's very dangerous. Now Alireza makes a little mistake, is that he goes for the weaknesses on the queen side, but instead he should have kept his pieces on the king side. This knight was super important to control this and this, instead of going for these weaknesses, just because I wouldn't call this an endgame yet. So this is the issue, is that you have so many threats against your king, right? That you have to be careful about. So he goes like this, now h4, Magnus, the sniper. G4, he goes here. You know, he goes with the queen here because he wants to support actually the push of this pawn. And now he goes H3. And you see, this one is super annoying. He's controlling like super important squares. He tries to counter in the center. Magnus says, I actually really don't care if you take my pawn with check. Alireza doesn't take it. He could have taken it. He takes this pawn. Magnus keeps opening the center. He's not done yet. He goes for the weaknesses, gives the pawn in the center, and they get this kind of situation. This kind of position where Magnus tripled on the f-pawn. It's true that this is the biggest weakness that white has in this position. Yeah, he goes for rook take f3. I mean, here, rook take f3 is a bad move, not because you can take, but because there was this move, knight e7. If you take, now I can take the rook. And if you move the king, now I have check, and you see the knight can come in, and it's quite dangerous to play like this for black. So maybe Magnus missed the move knight e7. Here, instead, Alireza, but he has 37 seconds left here. And by the way, Alireza started with 10 minutes. So you see that there was also in this game a time management problem, right? And they exchanged everything. They went to this rook endgame, and now he blunders straight away. And this is the problem, by the way. And this is something that also in your games, it's not worth in chess to spend so much time thinking about, you know, one move, because the ROI, your return on investment, I would say, that you have on this move, you still have 30 moves to play after. So that's the problem, is that you may play so many bad moves just because you played the best move at some point. But yeah, it's better not to take so much time to think, because you see this kind of moves. And Magnus missed the win here. He went like this. Instead, he was totally winning after this move because the race that Alireza calculated doesn't work, because simply Magnus could have played this, and there is no way that you can stop the rook to come here on the next move. There's absolutely nothing you can do. You see, having this pawn also controlling the square of the king is amazing. So, but this is not what happened in the game. So Magnus took, he went like this, blunder. Magnus went like this, and after this he managed to stop the pawn, but the king is coming, but he's still not clear, even though this position is equal. But there is a lot of mistakes that can be done, like here. Alireza played rook here. You see, this king couldn't come on the 5th rank, because whenever he comes here, he takes with check, and then he can keep his pawn. The difference now, Alireza went like this, now he can play king g5, and Alireza is attacking this pawn. If he takes this pawn, it's a disaster, and he cannot come here again because of this pawn. That's the problem here. And yeah, Alireza resigned, so Magnus won the match. Crazy chess, crazy chess. I hope you like this video, guys. And by the way, I recorded this video twice because I had a problem with the sound for the first one. But anyways, hope you liked it, and I'll see you on the next one.